But now we're asking if drivers who do 30 in a 20 mile per hour zone should be let off. 0207 862 2222 is the number. Now, former Cabinet Minister Kit Malthouse has pushed for new laws to spare drivers caught speeding between 20 and 30 miles per hour from having points added to their licence. He wants them to go to a speed awareness course instead, even if they are a repeat offender. Now, the Tory MP who was recently caught out by a 20 mile per hour zone said it was unfair that drivers should face higher insurance costs and immediately lose their licence if they have racked up points doing as little as 24 miles per hour in one of these zones. And I am pleased to say that Kit Malthouse joins us now. So you have been really open about this. You were recently caught out doing slightly over 20 miles per hour in a 20 miles per hour zone. What happened there?
Yeah, so I was inattentive for a moment. The car crept quite hard sometimes to drive at 20 miles an hour. Car crept up towards 24, 25, and I was snapped by a camera, as was the Archbishop of Canterbury recently. And so I went and did a speed awareness course. But Storm, for me, it was the moment at which I kind of realized that, driving in these days has become a bit of a paranoid activity. There are literally cameras everywhere waiting to catch your smallest transgression. And while the 20 mile an hour zone is welcome from a road safety point of view, we've never really asked the question, what should we do with people who are doing 24 miles an hour?
Well, punish them is the answer to that.
Well, in my case, it was a speed awareness course. But if now I've got 3 years in which if I do it again, I'll actually get 3 points. I can't do another course within 3 years. And I'm not sure that's the most useful thing for me or indeed for road safety. The fact that I could do 24 miles an hour 4 times in 3 years and lose my license and possibly livelihood seems to me disproportionate compared to what's happening. And given that we know from evaluations that speed awareness courses are much better in the long term at stopping people speeding than just giving them points, it seemed to be sensible to say, well, if you do it a second time, you go on another speed awareness course and another. And don't forget, each course costs between 80 and 120 quid. And so it seemed to me for road safety and a sense of proportion about what the actual offence is by a driver, 24 in a 20 is not the end of the world, that it would be more sensible and drivers would be more accepting of the system if we just made them do repeated speed awareness courses.
What do you think to that, Nina? Particularly for repeat offenders is an interesting issue.
My view on is that if it's your first time, I think you should get a warning letter. You should take a speed awareness course. If you do it the second time, then throw the book at you. That's fine. But for a first time, the trouble is, and we're talking about London, and there's a great country, a load of other, situations out there. But in London in particular, in the last few years, and particularly during the pandemic and since, many London streets have suddenly become 20 miles per hour, or you try and turn into a side road that you used to, and you can't go down it. And if you go, then you get fined. So there's a lot of, and I understand speed kills, and I understand all of that. And Sadiq Khan shelters that, the safety aspect. He hides behind the safety aspect. As you say, a money-making.
Okay, hold on, but Sadiq Khan would say it's not a money-making scheme, it's a way of reducing serious injury and fatalities. And this isn't just a London thing, this is happening across the country. So do call if you have any experience with this or you're feeling particularly passionate about it, 0207 862 2222. When you look at the stats, Mike, I'll put this to you, reducing speed from 30 to 20 miles per hour will reduce the chances of a serious injury or a fatality by 25%. Well, that's quite a significant percentage.
Well, hang on, that's the model. That's the model you're talking about, OK? But if you go and look at Wales, which has got more 20-mile-an-hour restrictions than anywhere else in the world, you will see that there is no significant change in the motoring statistics regarding safe motoring in Wales since they introduced a mass of 20-mile-an-hour restrictions.
Could that be because they're all going 24?
No.
Or did I say 30?
No, it's not. It's been a survey. They've looked at it and they said there is no great reduction in the road safety figures, i.e. number of accidents in Wales. I believe it's a political ideology. I believe it is to collect money. I believe it's anti-motorist because there's a huge left-wing move to try and drive motorists off the road in this country, particularly in London and Wales. And also, I have read a report, a scientific report, that says If a car is driving that slowly, now, if you've got a 50-grand Mercedes with a 3-litre engine and you have to try and make it crawl along at 90 miles an hour, it emits more pollution than it would if the car was driving at 30 miles an hour because of the gearing of the car.
The child's more likely to survive.
Outside schools, outside hospitals, I totally agree with 20-mile-an-hour restrictions, but everywhere else, it's just a political ideology to try and clobber the motorist, in my view.
OK, I want to bring in Anna Semlian now from 20's Plenty for Us, who wants 20-mile-per-hour limits to be the norm. Anna, what do you think about what you've heard sort of across the panel just now?
Well, we recommend that the limit set by the local authority be upheld, first of all, because it's there to protect vulnerable road users, and in fact all road users, from mistakes. People do make mistakes when they're driving, when they're cycling, when they're walking, and those mistakes should not kill anybody or give them serious injuries for life. And we think that it should be the case that when the most vulnerable people are mixing with motor traffic, as they are in 20 and 30 mile an hour areas in cities and urban areas and also villages, that drivers driving illegally should be able to be enforced. And as you've heard already, the first time they're caught doing more than 24, which is already quite a generous threshold, they are offered a speed awareness course or fines or points, and they can choose the speed awareness course. We think that once you've had a speed awareness course, the next penalty should be fines and points. Otherwise, you're sending the wrong message to drivers that the 30 mile an hour limit or 20 mile an hour limit is not enforceable, when it really does matter. The difference in terms of survivability is about 7 times greater survivability at 20 than 30 miles an hour. In Wales, for instance, there has been a drop in these overall speeds by nearly 3 miles an hour, and every 1 mile an hour less is about 6% fewer casualties. The Welsh move to 20 miles an hour as the default is expected to save between 1,200 and 2,000 casualties. Also, on driving in terms of pollution and fuel use, it's about a third less pollution or fuel use.
Even if you've got one of these heavy Mercedes that Mike's going on about?
Yes, Future Transport have modelled it.
So I suppose what Kit's saying is a punishment on a sliding scale when it comes to speeding. So if you're going, way over 70 miles per hour, you have the book thrown at you. That is outrageous. But if it's 24 in a 20, should that get the same punishment as someone going 80 in a 70 mile per hour zone? Is that fair, Anna?
We think that where vulnerable road users are, people not protected by the metal of a car, you need to make it safe. We all want to arrive alive and not injured. For instance, I was quite badly injured by somebody who didn't stop at a give way sign, and they weren't going particularly fast, but I've had 32 years of physio because of that. And it's not really entirely about the difference between a 70 mile an hour limit and a 20 mile an hour limit. It's that where people are, we need to protect them, and we need a duty of care for them. My job is to talk about 20 mile an hour limits, and it's where people are mixing with motor traffic that we need to make sure that drivers understand that they should not go above the limit. They could put a speed limiter on their car.
OK, Kit, I just want to come back to you, actually, because I think a lot of people think you're talking about the punishments you get for going over 20 miles per hour, but I think a lot of people will think that you're just anti-20 miles per hour. Do you think, like Mike does, and also Nina to a certain extent, that they're just a money-making scheme? They're there to make money for councils, not, as Anna would like them there, to save lives?
No, I mean, look, I'm a supporter of the 20 mile an hour limit. And as I said when I gave my speech in the House, there have been significant road safety benefits. So in the right circumstances, I think it is the right thing to do. But these things are all about balance. I mean, we can reduce road casualties to 0 if we make the speed limit 0, right? So you have to strike a balance, and we also have to strike a balance with drivers. Now, my view is that the evaluation shows that speeding awareness courses are much more effective for road safety than giving people points. And it may be that you don't just put them through the same course, you put them through a more intensive course, or one that's more expensive. You could have an escalating series of courses. But I just think that for somebody essentially to run the risk of losing their livelihood for doing 24 miles an hour is just not fair on motorists. And on the money-making thing, Nina will be pleased to hear that the other part of my bill was to say that for those non-speeding traffic offences, you turn left into the wrong street, or you get caught in the yellow box, or you drift into a bus lane, that for an offence a first offence at any location, you would just get a warning letter rather than the fine. Some of these cameras, we found that there's a camera apparently in Birmingham that takes something like £10,000 a week for people drifting into a bus lane. Now, in my experience, most people don't make that error twice.
Okay.
So giving them benefit of the doubt that they've made a genuine error, just warning them the first time, would seem to be a much more British way to go about these things. And I think the same is true with 20 miles an hour.
Okay, Kit, Anna, stay with me. I want to take some calls. It's a bit of worry if you're drifting into bus lanes or just drifting at all when you are driving. Okay, we're going to start with Hayley, Stoke-on-Trent. Hayley, what's your thoughts?
I actually can't believe that this is even on. I can't believe you brought it up today. My son and my daughter were crossing the road in a 20 mile an hour zone. A taxi came down 30 mile an hour and ploughed straight through both of my children 6 days ago. My daughter, I know what you're saying about the money making. People respond to being fined. They don't respond to nearly killing people's children. My daughter has a fractured skull, a bleed on the brain, a blood clot. She's broken 7 bones in her face. My son broke his pelvis and his knee, and my kid's life has changed massively in 6 days. My daughter can't remember who she is. She can't.
Sorry, did this happen 6 days ago, Hayley?
Yeah, 6 days ago.
Okay, well, first of all, I can't believe you're on the phone talking about it so clearly and articulately.
I can't believe you brought it up today. I'm absolutely gobsmacked. I looked at the tally, saw it and thought, oh my days, can't believe it's even on.
Hayley, what has been the repercussions to the taxi driver, do you know?
They said that if he's seen to just be not paying it due care and attention, it could go down as careless driving, and the repercussions are actually not that bad. If he's seen to be done serious injury due to dangerous driving, he could serve a prison sentence of up to 5 years.
Okay. Well, that's an ongoing case and that'll be sorted out independently to that. But what's happened to your children is just absolutely hideous. I mean, Nina, you were the one that made the point about it's just there to make money. Well, Hayley's proved the point that it's not there just for that.
I understand that, and I have every sympathy and all good wishes for, a full recovery and no repercussions to your children at all, because that does make the point. And of course I understand that, but the way that Sadiq Khan has employed this, there is an aspect of money making in it.
Kit, though, when you hear stories like Hayley's here, what does that make you rethink? Because let's say this was the taxi driver's first offence. We have no idea about this specific incident, but let's just say that first offence, somebody hits 2 children by going 30 miles per hour in a 20 zone. Do you think that's just a speed awareness course that's needed?
No. Obviously that driver will face very serious charges, as any driver who causes an injury on the road should. But that's a separate matter. We're talking about people here who are snapped speeding by a camera at 24 miles an hour who don't necessarily cause an accident. There are obviously repercussions for accidents, and every driver should have in their mind, of course, the risk that they take by speeding. The point is, I think, with speed awareness courses is we know from evaluation they are much better at getting people to stop speeding than just giving them points. And I don't know in that case whether that driver would have the points. So what's happened to Hayley is awful. I mean, listen, I have young children who are out and about crossing the road all the time. And so I live with that fear too. And I would much rather all the people driving down our street and the other streets they're using had been on one of these courses than they might have 3 or 6 points and not really thinking about it. So, as I say, my measure, I think, is about better road safety and a better acceptance by drivers of the atmosphere in which they're operating, particularly on residential streets. And I pray that Hayley's children recover swiftly.
Yeah, Hayley, thank you very much for calling and being so articulate. It must be really traumatic for you, and all the best for your little ones. Thanks for your call. Susan from Shropshire, what's your thoughts when you hear all the stories today? I mean, it's quite compelling.
Sympathies for, Hayley and her children, but I agree with your panel. It is a money-making scheme. And, you drive at 20, and I'll give you a prime example. I drove at 20. I had more time to look around, which then would entail me causing more of an accident because I'm drifting away from actually focusing on driving at 20.
Would that not suggest you're maybe not the best driver?
No, I don't.
No, I
agree.
don't think it's that. I've been driving for 30 years without any accidents at all. So no, I just think it's another money-making
But
scheme.
you're telling us you get distracted.
Well, can I just add?
At 20, at 30,
Yeah.
I didn't. At 30, I was concentrating, I was driving. And if you notice, the only people that say, oh, this is a good idea, are people that are in that position who are working for the government that need to say that. If you ask the general public, everyone will say 20 is too
Well, hold on.
regardless of what car
Wait,
you've
Mike,
got.
I'm going
go
to
on,
jump in here
sure.
because, Anna, you don't work for the government. So
No.
what do you say to Susan?
About 75% of people are actively in support of 20 miles an hour on their own street and in residential areas and where people live, including when they live on arterial roads as well sometimes. So it's not true that people don't want it. Road safety is a very popular vote-winning policy because it helps people to support their children's independent mobility, their elderly people's independent mobility. Of course, it's better for disabled people, anybody without a car, anybody who needs to get around at times where public transport's not available. We've got to be able to walk and cycle safely, and that's best happens at 20 miles an hour because at 30 miles an hour, the crash implications of anybody making a mistake are that it's a third floor building fall. 30 miles an hour is equivalent to an 8.8 metre drop. Nobody walks away from an 8.8 metre drop from a building, for instance. That's the crash impact. So I don't agree that it's about making money. There are very few schemes put in order to well, there are none that do that because the government gets the money and they're actually put in by local highways authorities. So the people putting in the schemes don't make the money.
Susan, thank you very much for your call. And also, I suppose there's a question to be asked about if it is saving lives and making money for the council. Is that not a win-win, or for the government? Amanda from Lancashire, what's your thoughts?
In residential areas, I actually agree, keep it at 20. I think the first, maybe even second time, as long as you're not going 30, maybe 24, you may get a speed awareness course. The one thing that hasn't been mentioned is, as well, that if you get caught speeding in another county, within 3 years even, you will most likely be offered a speed awareness course because that will count as your first time again.
Oh, okay, I see. So if you are in Wales, you cross over to England, then you would, rather than get a punishment. Is that right, Anna? Is that how the law works? I would presume that you would be, there would be some sort of system to allow them to know that you've been caught before speeding at 20.
I think different police forces do police differently. So I'm not sure that there's a central register on your speed awareness courses across the police forces.
But surely it would be on your driver's licence if you had got some points. But I see what you're saying,
The
Amanda.
points would.
If you only do one of these courses, that perhaps it doesn't go on your licence and perhaps they wouldn't know, so they would offer you it again. I don't know either way.